Hello and welcome back to my channel, Family Tech, where you get all the tech tips, news, and information you didn't even know you needed. Today, I'm so excited because Stephanie's a friend of mine. We've known each other since long before either of us did this YouTube thing. So long ago when we were both first married, before we even had any kids.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So long ago. I frequently quote your husband, who is quoting Wedding Singer, and say, "They were cones." All the time.
There's so many situations where that just fits.
It really does. So yeah, her husband used to always say, "They were cones," from The Wedding Singer. And every time I say that, I think of your husband and I think of you. But where we differ is crafts. Now, I am what they call, to quote another movie, Home Alone, I'm what the French call les incompetents when it comes to crafts. And I'll tell a little funny story about this flower right here. I was at my friend's house and she wanted to, I was just hanging out at her house. She invited us over for some crafting fun. And I am an idiot when it comes to crafts. And so we were all standing around and she had these fun projects for all of us. And actually I'm gonna make us a little bigger. Had all these fun projects for us. And then she wants us to make these flowers. And I'm literally holding it and just not understanding anything. And she takes it from me and she goes, "It's okay. It's okay." And she folded it for me.
Oh, good. Well, that's a good friend.
So I did not make this flower.
You can still say you helped. It's good.
Right. I looked at it blankly for several minutes and then she just helped me out and took that over for me. So I'm so excited because you know all about crafts. I know nothing about crafts. And just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, what your whole channel is and everything.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So, if I go all the way back to when I was a kid, I loved puff paint and cross stitching. And in the 4th grade, my friends and I, we'd cut up our regular school notebook paper and draw on it with colored pencils and stamps and make this pretty stationery to turn in our homework.
I did nothing of the sort.
So I've always had something like that going on. And then, not long after I got married, I started scrapbooking, kind of when kids came along and there were lots of pictures. And so scrapbooking kind of led into discovering the world of Cricut, being able to use some kind of electronic machine to cut out letters or pieces that I could use on my pages. And then I made cards, and then I expanded into, adhesive vinyl and iron-on vinyl for shirts and hats and anything else that doesn't move. And then that got me into blogging and some of this graphic design. And you helped me out when I was doing my kind of final project when I went back to school for web design. And so all of these things have kind of merged into what you see here. So I love learning about new tech and crafting and then teaching other people about it too. So between my website and then my Instagram and my YouTube channel that I'm kind of trying to revive this year, that's the kind of stuff that you'll see from me.
Awesome. And on this YouTube video, if you look in the description, I will have a link to her YouTube channel so you can go check that out. For those who are listening on audio, because I do upload this to my podcast every week, tell us the name of your channels and how to find you.
Yeah. So my blog and my YouTube, Crafting in the Rain. And I picked that. So we live up here in the Pacific Northwest. We lived here for, maybe about a year when I decided to kind of dip my foot in the blogging world. And yeah, crafting in the rain, it just kind of fit with the weather that I was getting used to. And, if you kind of want to expand that into something bigger, you can say, even when things are a little like dark and gray in your life, I will go to crafting to, create something that didn't exist before, or, something like that. And so
I love that double meaning there, like crafting in the rain, because you are actually in the Pacific Northwest, which I went to high school and everything in Oregon, and so
yeah,
I'm well familiar with the climate up there.
totally.
But crafting in the rain, and then yeah, like when your life is dark and rainy as well, you can craft
Yeah.
and have joy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Find something that means something to you. So
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about crafting tech. Like I said, I am the biggest idiot when it comes to all of this. Like most of my guests, I really have an idea of like what I want to talk about and everything. And this one was really hard for me because I'm like, I know nothing. So let's chat about your favorite tech tools that you use for crafting.
yeah. All right. So I'm gonna say my absolute favorite is Cricut and all things kind of related to Cricut. Like if I were to kind of point out a couple of things here. So over here, this is the smallest Cricut machine. This is called the Cricut Joy. And it's just this super cute little compact. So you can do little small projects. You can do cards. They have some cards that are specifically built for this size of machine that make it really easy. And so that can be something fun if you don't have a lot of space or you want to start with something small. The Cricut is just what I'm most familiar with since I've used it the longest. Something similar would be a Silhouette. There are different sizes of the Silhouette machines. And again, you've kind of got this big range of things that you can cut and make with it, kind of depending on which version of the machine you have, which tools it can incorporate. Like I said, you've got vinyl and iron-on, paper and cardstock, fabric, burlap, leather, thin pieces of basswood. You can do some engraving. So it really gives you this big, list of opportunities of kind of paths of crafts you can go down if you want to. Or if you're like me, a little bit of everything. And so you design stuff in their software called Cricut Design Space. And that's totally free to put on your computer. If you're kind of thinking like about a Cricut or want to follow along with a YouTube tutorial or something, you can totally get that on your computer and play around with it even before you have any Cricut machine. So that's kind of fun.
For someone who's an idiot like me, and I am familiar with Cricut, but I know there's probably a lot of people that don't even know what you're talking about when you say Cricut. So
Sure.
what does it do and like what can you do with it?
Yeah. Okay. So again, with my little small one, that's the one I brought out because it's easier to hold. And then, I have two other machines that are probably about this wide. So what you do here, let me grab let's see if I got a mat behind me. There's a sticky mat that actually goes into the machine and holds down your material that you're working on.
Oh, cool. And look at her awesome crafting space. Like, doesn't that look like so much fun?
Yeah, so this is one of those big setups from IKEA. And this is the part of my room that looks decent right now. So. Okay, so of course I can't find it in my bucket. Okay, I'll just have to use my words.
That's all right.
Right. Okay, so let's see. So let's say you want to cut out a little sticky label that says socks, and you want to put that like on your kid's sock drawer.
Nice.
So you're going to pick a sticky vinyl. Maybe you pick their favorite color. So in Design Space, you're going to go in, you're going to type the word socks, and you can pick the font, so the style of letter that you like. Then you're going to take a piece of that vinyl and put it on one of the little sticky plastic mats. And so that'll load into here, and then this is the blade. And the computer will tell the blade like where to cut, The rollers will come in and out so that you've got your blade making contact to cut out all of the letters that spell socks. So when that's done, then it'll spit out and you will peel away all of the outside vinyl. So like all of the parts that you don't want to keep, anything that's not a letter. And that's called weeding. So you're weeding away all the vinyl that you don't want. Take out the little center of the O from socks. Then you're going to take another piece of sticky material. It's called transfer tape. You put that over the vinyl and then you peel that up. So now you've got the letters stuck to this sticky transfer tape. So you're not trying to pick up one letter at a time. They get stretched. You have to try to line it up on your own. You know, that's no good. Don't do that.
That would be so hard. Yeah.
So you'll line up your transfer tape onto your drawer and then press it all down. And those sticky letters are going to stick to your front of your dresser. And then you pull off the transfer tape. And now you've got this cute label. And then you just expand that onto whatever other kinds of surfaces you want to do. So that's what your Cricut blade is doing. It's cutting, and then some of the other, I guess this one has too, a little spot where you can put in pens and it will draw, letters or outlines or things like that for you too. So
that's cool. I actually didn't even know it could do that. So that's amazing. So it's basically the best scissors that you've ever had, right?
Yeah, exactly. It will cut out a perfect circle where I will never be able to do that with a pair of scissors.
Same, like even if it's drawn on a piece of paper and I've got nope, it's not going to look as perfect as it would with the Cricut machine.
Yep, there you go.
Cool. Okay, so there's Cricut and you said something similar is the Silhouette.
Yeah, Silhouette is very similar. Let's see. And then, do you want to jump into laser stuff yet?
Yeah, let's lasers. Okay.
All right. So, what's really fun about like the last few years is a lot of this kind of crafting tech that's really just been reserved for, big factories, big machines, big kind of production facilities. Yeah. Are being turned into smaller personal items for home use. And so I just recently got something called an Xtool M1. And I don't have it here because it's large. It's probably about this big and, would take up half my table.
Wow.
A lot of times that lives out in the garage because if we're doing laser engraving or cutting on wood, it just produces some smoke. And so it's easier to have that out in the garage.
You don't want to set out the smoke detectors and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. If it's just something, short and quick, I can vent it out the window and it's fine. But eventually it would, kind of catch up in here.
For sure.
So this is a machine that's a combo laser cutter and it has a blade also. So it could do some of the vinyl and iron-on and paper that my Cricut can do.
Okay.
The designing process is a little clunkier, so I still prefer, Cricut and Design Space if I'm doing something with vinyl or something like that. But with laser, and then a lot of people have probably also heard of a Glowforge. It's another.
I've never heard of a Glowforge.
It's another laser engraver, a little pricier than the Xtool that I just got. But again, is designed for people to have in their home for either just hobby stuff or setting up their own small business for, laser engraving, laser cutting. Some of the materials that you can work with a laser. This is where I'm going to show off a couple of these.
Yeah, show off.
Okay. And some of these will have like either a blog post or a YouTube video that I've done so you can kind of get a better view of what I've got here. This is just some wood earrings. And I used a 3mm basswood plywood. So it's just a light colored and lightweight wood. And I designed a little book shape and then put the words Little Women across the front.
Cute.
So my laser did all of this. It was a sheet of plywood first.
Uh-huh.
And I set it in there and then sent the design in. So it did engraving to make the letters. So that's what makes them dark on the front.
Uh-huh.
And then it did something called a score line, which is just like a single like, straight line of the laser. And that kind of gives the details of the book. And then it cut the outline, including the little hole where I put the jewelry hardware into.
Wow.
So you get going with stuff like that, and you can cut out little earrings from wood or leather, acrylic. Depending on your type of laser, it may be able to work with different colors of acrylic. This gets a little bit even more technical than I've gone into, but just the physics and the science of what type of laser you have affects how it passes through or reflects in those different colors of acrylic and whether it will cut or not. So
I gotcha.
There's something for people to kind of think about and look into if they really go down that path.
Now, does it need to be like a flat surface in order to go through the laser, or like, can I have something, if I have like a water bottle, I want to like laser engrave, like what would I?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so far all of the stuff I have done is flat, but I do have an attachment that's like, it's on my list of things to learn, right?
Yeah.
So it's a whole kind of tool that I set inside the machine and hook it up just right. And it will take a water bottle or, some other kind of mug or something and hold it and actually rotate it so that the laser can, put a whole design, a logo, and name. So that'll be really fun when we kind of jump into learning how that tool works. So yeah, that's totally something that these machines can do.
Yeah, that would be super fun. One thing, like, again, my crafting level is 0. But I was gifted one year for Christmas a Pyrex clear glass thing, but with my name laser engraved on it, like my last name. Yeah. So if I ever take that to like some potluck or something like that, it's really easy to tell whose dish this is to like send it back.
Make sure you take home the right glass dish.
Right. And like, so that's one of my favorite things that I have. And I'm like, that would be really a perfect opportunity for something like that laser engraver, just engraving some of like your dishes that you're going to take places and get your stuff back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Personalization is one of the kind of biggest themes that you can do through all of this crafting stuff.
Yeah.
I've put my kids' names on the inside of jackets with iron-on or heat transfer vinyl because I know it's not going to wash off, it's not going to fade or run like a marker would. And then you start thinking birthday presents and wedding gifts and housewarming and all of these different ways you can say like, hey, I was thinking about you like way before I came to, to this event or to give you this thing. Like,
I didn't run and get a gift card on my way over.
Right. And not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. Do the Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
Awesome. Okay, so we've talked about lasers. What else we've got in the tech space?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about printers. Okay. Almost everybody has some kind of home printer, and there's actually a lot of crafting type stuff that you can do with a decent color printer. And I feel like most printers these days are kind of thinking towards like people are going to maybe print photos on this printer. So some of the color quality I think has gone up over the last, a couple of decades for sure.
For sure.
So, I mean, different things you can do. You can combine, sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog through my mic over here.
Okay, I'm surprised my dog
rolled around on the floor. All right.
We love the paw people.
Okay, good. Okay, so backing up a little, if you're going to use your printer just kind of as a standalone thing, there are all sorts of things online that other people have designed that's either printable artwork or printable kids activities, party and holiday decor that, again, people have already designed and have set it up in a way that it's easier for you to just print it out and cut along the outlines or use your little paper trimmer or whatever. Um, so that's really cool. And there's lots of good brands out there. I am currently using an HP just because I have for a few years, and I have their instant ink, and so I know I can just print as much as I want, and they're gonna send me new ink when I need it. So so it can be a nice route to go down. And then you can also combine it, like I said, with Cricut and Silhouette type crafts, where you can design things that, think of like a cartoon image that's just all now one flat picture, and you're going to send it to your printer, and it's going to print it out, and then it will just cut like an outline around the whole thing. So like that's how I do all of my stickers. So I've got, let's see, I don't know if there's a good way to like move this over a little bit better. Okay. So I have all sorts of stickers here. I've got Taylor Swift lyrics, and I've got, a couple of friends' quotes, and just little, like I have a whale, for whatever reason. And sometimes I sell the digital files of these. Sometimes I sell the actual sticker. But I'll fill up like a whole sheet in Design Space, and then I'll send it to print on sticker paper, and then I'll cover it with a clear waterproof layer, and then I'll put that on my sticky mat and put it through my Cricut. And the bigger machines have a special little sensor that can track the outside printed line, and they say, okay, this is the border of this whole design that I was just sent, and so now I know where all to cut on the inside. So that's how the print and cut stuff works. So I like having my color printer always available.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then
so you print it on the printer, and then you put it on the Cricut to cut it out?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I mostly do it for sticker stuff. You can also print on paper or cardstock, and and then cut out elements for scrapbooking or card making or little cake toppers. All sorts of.
And you just use the same file in the Cricut application that you did on the printer. Okay, very cool. I'm learning.
Yeah. Let's see. And then another type of printer that I wanted to talk about. It's called a sublimation printer. So a sublimation printer has a different kind of ink in it than you will find in a regular, laser or inkjet printer. And I've got a couple of these. So it's special ink, and it prints on special paper. It's a very special kind of craft.
So
and
special.
you have to apply it onto special materials and blanks that are meant for sublimation. But this is another one of those techniques that really just kind of used to be reserved for big manufacturers, and now it's coming into kind of the home craft world.
Nice.
So I have a printer that has this special ink, and what happens with this ink is when it gets heated up, it turns into a gas. So that's where you get, kind of the solid to gas state, right? So here it's printed and dried on this paper, and usually when it prints out, it's kind of dull. Like a lot of people will print stuff out and be like, oh, there's something wrong with my printer because it doesn't look like my picture. It's not supposed to yet.
Right.
So then you will use your little Cricut heat press, some kind of iron, something to apply a lot of flat heat with even pressure. And then you can put it on something that either has a special sublimation coating or a shirt that's a really high polyester count. And it turns into a gas. It has this chemical reaction with the surface or the fabric, and it embeds into that item. So while you can't really see here, this is a little coaster with some Christmas trees, but if you run your finger across it, there's no bumps, there's no edges. It's not like a layer of vinyl that's been set down. It's actually in the coating of the coaster. So you can get really cool colors, multiple colors without having to do lots of layers of things. And it lasts a long time too. If you think like you've got a shirt and you're stretching it and pulling it, the dye is in all of those fibers, and so it's going to last as long as your shirt does.
So that's even better than like a screen print, like people do screen printing for
Yeah, with the
shirts.
fabric ink.
Yeah. Because that's
Yep.
gonna be like a more sturdy. I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I don't know what words I'm
very
looking for.
durable and long lasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
that's
there's a couple little tricks that I like to think about when people are designing or picking images and fabrics that they want to put it on. You kind of think of these as like markers, right? There's no white marker that's going to show up on a colored shirt, right? That's
absolutely.
If you have a white shirt, or if you have a gray shirt, your colors are going to show up differently. They'll be really bright and vibrant on your white shirt. They'll probably be a little more dull or muted, but can still look really cool on a gray shirt. And as long as it's got a high polyester count, it will take that dye, it will have that reaction. Just kind of think about, okay, if you're coloring, markers on a black shirt, you're not going to see anything, right? Trying to put this sublimation ink onto a black shirt is not going to work. You have to do kind of some other workaround of putting it on something else first. And so there are ways, but just, as people kind of, if they're looking into sublimation, I feel like that's a good explanation of how to think of how the result is going to turn out.
Yeah, and that's probably how, so I have these car coasters, which are like a smaller version of a coaster, but fits in your cup holder. But it's got like cute like phrases like "make today beautiful" or whatever, and it's like all cute and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's probably how they did that because it's that ceramic.
And you can buy blank all sorts of things. They've got the car coaster. There's mugs. So like,
that's so pretty.
One. Garden flags and socks and hair accessories, like all sorts of things that have been created with the purpose of doing this sublimation ink on it.
Very cool. Yeah. All right, so we've done lasers, we've done regular printers, we've done the Cricut, we have done sublimation. What else you got? I know you got at least one more.
This one, I for sure wanted to make sure we had time about. We're going to talk about 3D printers.
That's exactly the one I was thinking.
Yes, good. Okay, so my husband is really the go-to 3D printer guy in our house. He had a couple several years ago. Yeah. It kind of, it kind of ran its course, and he sold those, and then just like anything else, the tech and how out of the box ready things are, it's just become more easy to get into, a little more accessible again. So we've got a couple of new machines again, and he's remembering the stuff he learned before, learning some new stuff, learning how some things are better, different, changed, all of that. And so we've had a lot of fun kind of combining his 3D printer stuff with some of the different things that I have. Quick little overview. If you're not familiar with a 3D printer, basically you get these spools of plastic filament, and they're pretty thin little, like a little rope of plastic, and just think about it like wound around maybe like a really big bobbin of thread.
Got it.
And it comes down into a little nozzle that heats up. And so as the plastic feeds into this nozzle, it heats up and melts. And the nozzle is connected to some arms, which are on wheels, little stepper motors that help it move all around. So it takes the 3D file that you've sent to it and kind of draws all these layers of plastic. And it's, going in and out and building up as it goes. Mm-hmm. And so we've created all sorts of fun little, so these things are all made out of plastic. Here's like a little dinosaur. Here's a little gecko that's all like wobbly and wiggly. This is a little turtle that.
Oh, that's fun.
So we've done a lot of like fun little toys. We've, sent them to nieces and nephews and
Nice.
stuff. So that's what. So it can do, some of its standalone stuff, right? You can make decorations or parts of costumes or a lot of things that people 3D print are accessories to work with their 3D printer.
That's so meta. So meta.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, there's tons of files that exist already that other people have created and offer up for free, or you can buy them. Tons of Facebook groups or online forums where you can go and kind of get a feel for the science of all this stuff and what you might have to do and be ready to do when you bring one home. There's a lot of calibration you have to do, lots of troubleshooting. You may have several prints go fine right in a row, and then the next 2 or 3 all fail. And so you're trying to figure out why. So if that's something that sounds interesting, like you like doing that sort of thing, then this may be just the thing for you. So some of the ways that we've taken some 3D printing stuff and combined it with some other things that I do.
Yeah.
All right. So you can see this guy here. This is a model that someone made of, kind of like a Greek or Roman statue head, right? And it's all
perfect
flat
for
on the
yesterday.
back. Yeah. So it printed flat like this, where it had this layer here, and then it just kept, building up.
Okay.
Okay. So then I set this down in a little acrylic tray, and I mixed up some silicone mold builder and poured it in all over it and made a silicone mold of this guy, of our statue.
Okay.
Then with this mold, I mixed up some resin and added some colorant to it and poured it all down in my mold. And a couple of days later, I peeled out this guy that, has kind of like this brown undertone, and I put some kind of shiny powder on it. So that was pretty fun, right? Take something that was printed, make a mold out of it, use the mold to make something else. And
what I like about that is because some things that I don't like about the stuff that's 3D printed, I can tell it's 3D printed. It's like this plasticky, whatever. But doing something like that, you can make it into whatever, materials you want.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you can, this silicone stuff is food safe. So you can, you could print some stuff that you wanted to make a mold for, like little personalized chocolates or, little candy things that you could use a mold like that for. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it can expand into a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So another one that we did. So this is like a little letterpress machine. Okay. So everything you can see here that is purple, or these little blue knobs up here, these were all 3D printed.
Okay.
And then like this blue kind of roller here in the middle. Okay, so he put that all together. That printed in some different pieces. It's got a couple of screws in here to apply some pressure. Okay, then we went out to the laser engraver and made this little guy. This is like letterpress linoleum.
Okay.
So sent this to the laser, and it basically engraved everything that was in the background. So it's making like a raised stamp. And so now everything that's left is our little image of this guy playing a banjo.
Right.
Okay? So we've got those pieces. Then we took some like letterpress ink. Speedball is a real popular brand.
Okay.
So you take this little roller and you get this really thin layer of ink, like rolled out on a piece of acrylic or something. And then you roller onto your stamp. So it's just this real thin layer of ink on here. And then we've got these 2 layers of felt. So let's see, I'm trying to think, I can't remember exactly which order. I think it's like this. So you put the linoleum thing down with your ink on it. And then you put down a piece of damp watercolor paper, and then you cover it up again and you roll it through. It's got this little handle crank here, and it rolls through and gives it just the right amount of pressure
Yeah.
so that when you pull out your little letterpress paper on the other side,
That's
you get this really
awesome.
cool thing. So this is
Wow.
really fun, when people are doing like their own little pieces of artwork. And you've got a combination of all these tools. And a lot of times these will be done like with hand carving, right?
Sure.
Like people will hand carve with really sharp tools. I cut a big notch in my thumb in like 8th grade arts and crafts class when we were doing stamps like this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you've just got kind of this merging of all sorts of mediums and tech, and then really kind of like old technology, right? Like a
Right.
manual press like this that has been created by a 3D printer. So
That's
so
amazing.
it's really fun.
So that just leads me to a question
Yeah.
between like the laser cutter and like the 3D printer. If like I were to make like a rubber stamp, what medium would you like? That just made me think of like a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Like, could you make a rubber stamp with those tools? And like, which one would you choose to do
Yeah.
it with?
Yeah. So I don't have it with me on the table, but I have done a rubber stamp in my laser engraver.
Oh, okay.
Because they make, it's like a sheet of rubber basically.
Okay.
And so you send your file and it basically is just burning away the rubber. Like when you take out the piece, I had to take a toothbrush to like kind of brush away all of this like kind of gritty burned rubber. That was another one that we did in the garage because it takes a long time. It takes 2 or 3 passes and the laser's going kind of slow, right? It's really burning away some of the layers of that rubber.
Yeah.
So then you get that all cleaned off. You can brush it off with toothbrush and then some rubbing alcohol to really kind of get it all cleaned off. And then you could do a couple of different things. If you wanted to combine it with something 3D printed, then you could like design a little handle or something.
Oh, sure.
Right? So like you've got a little flat thing on the bottom, maybe a circle or a rectangle, whatever kind of shape you made for your stamp.
Yeah.
And then build it up and have it with a little handle on it. And then you've got, glue it on with some nice, good adhesive.
Right.
And then you can stamp. I just glued mine onto a little scrap block of wood.
Oh, okay.
So, kind of like the, stamps you see in the craft store, right? Where they use a block of wood. But and then, I mean, if you were 3D printing something too, you could also, put some initials or like design in whatever your stamp is. Put a little picture of that, on the top of your handle.
Yeah, that's fun. So many things you can do.
Oh yeah.
So what else have you guys like 3D printed over the years?
Let's see. We've got a whole little bowl full of just little fidgety kind of things.
Nice.
So kind of like this little guy moves around. We've got some little cubes that just kind of keep folding inside of themselves.
Oh, cool.
Or a little something you can like screw and unscrew. So fun little things like that.
With that like toy, like with the lizard guy, does it print out each individual piece and you have to put it together somehow? Like, do you have like...
No, great question. And like this still blows my mind about some of this 3D printing stuff. It prints all like this, and it prints like with the hinges connected.
What?
Yeah.
I don't even know how that's possible. That's
it's like you have to watch like some process videos to kind of almost see like how does that even not turn into just a melted mess on the table.
Right. I thought for sure you had to put that together. That is insane.
No, there have been a few things that have pieces that go together, but a lot of them are designed to just print in one solid piece so that it can still move when you're done. Sometimes there's little parts you have to break a little bit, little supports or something that were built in there, and sometimes not. It just kind of depends on how the file was built.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So are there any other like tech products, like hardware, that we haven't talked about yet?
Let's see. I mean, not that I have used. I mean, if you can go into like the world of sewing and embroidery and all that stuff. And there's some really cool um, machines where you would use a lot of this tech and design type stuff
Hmm.
as opposed to just a regular sewing machine that I use, right? Like I can pretty much do a straight line, right? Like that's what you're
Yeah,
going to see me sewing. Um, but there are a lot of other, higher tech um, sewing options out there.
for sure.
And some people have, like I said, you can cut fabric with one of the blades of the Cricut,
Okay.
and so that's nice for like kind of small scale sewing projects.
Mm.
A lot of people have done some quilting stuff with that because everything just gets cut super exact.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah.
I don't my friend down the road has a long arm quilter, and like
Oh, uh-huh.
that thing looks super
They're,
intimidating to me. But
yeah. I like to watch people use them, but I've never asked to step up and have a turn.
yeah. Yeah, me neither. But I'm like, wow, like, and it's got a computer that runs it, so it's definitely tech,
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
I mean, it takes up an entire bedroom and is
Mm-hmm.
just crazy, crazy what you
Yeah,
can do.
yeah.
Um, so aside from hardware, are there any apps or things like or software programs that aren't related to hardware that you like to use?
Yeah. Let's see. All right. So, I mean, probably the one that I use the most that's not Design Space
Hmm.
is Adobe Illustrator.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it's got a pretty steep learning curve, right?
Yeah.
Like it's one of the Adobe products. So it's definitely what professionals are using. It's what I learned in some of my school stuff. So I'm familiar with how things work in there. So that's usually where I will go in and design the SVG files, the format that Cricut can then cut out into, all different pieces that I want of my different layers.
Got it.
So I can, easily manipulate fonts in there, give them some different looks, easily make them curve. You can do that a little bit in Design Space, but it's a little clunky.
Yeah.
Um, and then another one that I feel is really up and coming is Canva. And there's a free
I use
version.
Canva so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. So there's a free version of Canva and a paid version. I haven't ever upgraded to the paid version since I'm familiar with Illustrator and some other Adobe products where I can kind of use
Yeah.
those instead. Um, but Canva is really great for doing kind of your own graphic design or, making flyers or invitations or, graphics for your own website, stuff like that. It's pretty user friendly, and if you get the paid version too, you've got a lot of more you've got more options of things that are pre-designed in there for
Yeah.
you to use.
Um,
Yeah,
which
and
reminds
then
me, as you said, Adobe Illustrator, I
uh-huh,
forgot to mention to everybody that my logo was designed by Stephanie. So
that's
the Family Tech
right.
logo that I use everywhere, that was designed by yours truly, right over there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done logos for a few friends and businesses over the years, so that's been fun. And then I've also got my iPad where I use
Oh, sure.
Procreate,
Okay. My daughter
and
uses
that's
Procreate as
pretty
well.
much the only thing I use my iPad for. Like
Yeah.
I'm very Android, just like you are. um, but yeah, I feel like Procreate is really fun. I think it's still just a $10 purchase for the
Yeah,
app.
it is.
And so, I've got my iPad Pro and my Apple Pencil, and I've done a couple of paid courses and just found free videos on YouTube also. There's lots of people who will show you just kind of a walkthrough of, hey, here's where all the tools are, or let's draw this flower together, and you're going to learn a few things about the program along the way. So I've designed some stickers in here. I have designed some things that I turn into SVGs over in Illustrator after I've drawn them. And so that's a fun way to get into some art and drawing without feeling like you need a whole cabinet full of brushes and
Art
pens and
supplies. Yeah.
inks and paints and all of those things. So
Yeah. My
um,
daughter is a artist.
okay,
Don't
yes,
know
oh, that's
where
right. I see
she
forward.
Yeah, don't know where she came from because I have no artistic capabilities whatsoever. But as a very anti-Apple house, I did purchase her an iPad for Christmas one year, and she uses Procreate with her Apple Pencil,
Yeah.
and she loves it. And I think that like you said, it's a really good tool for that
Hmm.
purpose. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to encourage her art, even if I have to purchase an Apple product to do
Right.
it.
And there are drawing apps that exist
Yeah,
for different Android tablets,
true.
and they're getting to where they're coming up to the same caliber
Yeah.
as what you can do with the Apple stuff. So I haven't used them, so I can't
Yeah.
speak to what's great. But I think there's an Adobe.
Well, there's
Adobe
Autodesk
system.
Sketchbook that is
Okay.
really good. That's
Okay.
what my daughter used to use before she got the
Mm-hmm.
iPad. But and she even when she got the iPad kept using Autodesk Sketchbook for quite a while until she started like dabbling in Procreate, and then like
Mm-hmm.
now she's completely over in Procreate. Like she doesn't go back to
Right.
Sketchbook anymore. But yeah, like even that transition, she was like, "Oh, I'm still more comfortable with this interface,"
Right. I
but she
know.
got
I
there.
know where to find what I want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people are intimidated with crafting like me, where can they get started? Like what is like a really simple, easy project that
Yeah.
like even idiots that can't fold a flower can do?
um, yeah. All right. I think there's a couple of really good options. One is to look for some kind of craft kit.
Oh, okay.
Um, like you can check out Etsy, Amazon. One thing to kind of watch for if you're finding stuff on Etsy that you like, go search on Amazon and see if it exists over there cheaper. Like sometimes
Nice.
they'll buy up these kits from Amazon and then just resell them on Etsy.
Oh,
So just
funny.
kind of watch for that. But like I found a few really fun little just embroidery kits.
Okay.
And what's nice about that is you get everything that you need.
Hmm.
You're not trying to figure out, okay, what supplies, what colors, like it
Right.
just comes with what you need. And so it feels a little more doable and contained.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes there's other craft kits, and that's just for the first one that came to mind because I
Sure.
used them.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes you can actually like talk a crafty friend into helping you with the project. Like, hey, I want to make a shirt for my kid's birthday. Right. I want to make a paper flower and I don't know where to start. Um, and whether you spend an afternoon working on some stuff together or you see if your local craft store has craft classes or craft
Oh,
night,
sure.
it's a really good way to kind of dip your toes into something without saying, okay, I need to go buy this whole laundry list of tools and supplies that I don't currently have. And
Right.
then you do it a couple times and you don't like it. I mean,
Right.
I've definitely been guilty of that.
Yeah.
um, so, so yeah, there's a few different little, avenues of being able to get your hands on something that will give you a taste of if you like that. Another thing is, just making a few little handmade cards. If you think like
Oh, sure.
um, cardstock and envelopes and a roll of washi tape and maybe some stickers. And whether you're looking at pictures for inspiration or you just kind of go at it, cut up a couple of things that have some of the same colors in it and layer them on with some glue and write happy birthday on it. um, and that's kind of fun too if you're like, I just want to like make something quick and have it done.
Yeah.
um, those little half-hour projects can be really nice.
Yeah. So that makes me think of like, even I could call this crafting, right? Like
Oh
just
yeah.
putting a bunch of stickers on
Uh-huh.
on a water bottle. Like I am a pro at stickers on technology and stuff. So
Yes,
I
yeah,
can now
I'm sure
consider
you've got a
myself.
decorated laptop and
I absolutely have a decorated laptop. I
good,
wonder if
good.
I can, yeah, see, there we go.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's my laptop. That's
And
so
it's fun.
yes.
It's like I feel like it's kind of the grown-up way to like show off what your hobbies are and things that you like now or liked as a kid.
Right, right. Yeah, I've got some like Care Bears on there, which
Oh, yeah, perfect.
definitely kids liked as a kid. I mean, sure, I
Uh-huh.
enjoy Care Bears now, but not to the
Right.
extent that I did back
Yeah,
then.
no, I get it.
What about like just quickly, what about crafting with your kids? Like I think these kits is a really good idea. I mean, I am benefited from the meal kits, like because I'm also an idiot in the
Oh, uh-huh.
kitchen. So I'll
Yeah,
buy those
no,
meal kits.
none of my creativity here transfers to the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Well, that's good to know. At least the creativity can be limited in some
Yeah,
sort.
yeah.
But what about like, is there anything if like I just want to get started with something with my kids, looking around the house, what do you think is a good way to get started?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, it's definitely going to depend on age and kind of ability
True.
level of your kids. But really, the biggest thing with kids crafting is just letting them make something that didn't exist before, letting them play around with uh, colors and shapes and, maybe the feel of different things if they're, coloring with chalk outside versus a finger paint inside.
Oh, sure.
Um, just all of those things are really good for fine motor skills and and confidence.
Yeah.
If you set something up where your kid's making something and then you hang it on the wall or on the fridge for a few days, like it's a boost.
That's so
For
true.
anybody really.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, some fun things to do are like painting with Q-tips.
Mm.
Right, so you take a few little colors of different acrylic paint out on a disposable plate, hand everybody a handful of Q-tips, and if they're a little older, you can maybe try and get like, hey, just draw, like make a picture with just dots.
Oh, cool.
If
Yeah.
they're a little younger, they're still probably going to like drag it around, but it's just again something different to experiment and play with other than a paintbrush.
Yeah.
And other things that are fun for kind of even smaller kids, just get a bunch of different colored paper and you start tearing it up into little pieces, and then try to build a picture with it. So you glue
Oh,
down
fun.
like here we're going to put kind of a yellow circle over here, and you're gluing down all those for your sun, and then you have a little blue stream in the bottom with some green, and then okay, now pick a bunch of different colors and let's put flowers around here. So again, it's just playing with these different textures and kind of either creating something out of their head or looking at an inspiration picture and making it. And then if you want to be a little more hands off, again, it's depending on the age of your kid
Sure.
and what you're comfortable with or whatever.
Right.
There's different ways to do mess free painting. Um, I love when my kids were little, sending them outside in the summer with a bunch of paintbrushes and just a bucket of water.
Oh, sure.
So, yeah, or even like a little spray bottle too, right?
Yeah.
So you spray things, your brush, and that's literally no mess.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's fun. And then of course the internet has a million ideas, which
Yeah.
is sometimes not as helpful as you'd think it would be, right? Like there's
It can get
too
overwhelming.
too
Yeah.
many. Yeah. So my suggestion there is to just try and be a little more specific. That instead of just Google search crafts for kids,
Right.
okay, you can get a little more specific with their age.
Okay.
Okay, like crafts for toddlers, and
Mm.
that'll kind of narrow down your supplies and your mess a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you can narrow in on certain holidays.
Oh, sure.
Um,
St. Patrick's
or
Day is tomorrow. So,
Yeah, exactly. And so you're going to find things with, okay, here's how you make like a handprint shamrock,
right.
or um, some of the Cricut stuff. You can get all the pieces ready and have kids, kind of put things together.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I'm trying to think if I had another brilliant idea there.
Well,
The
along
other
those
thing I was thinking,
lines, you could
what's
probably
that?
even Google along those lines, you could probably even Google like the materials that you already have, like, you know,
Oh yeah.
painting crafts for toddlers, and get
Hmm.
super specific like that.
Yeah, yeah. There's things you can do with felt and tissue
Right.
paper, pom poms,
Sure.
um, and and there you're going to go down kind of the kid craft aisle at
Yeah.
the craft store, right? You don't need the super fancy, expensive felt balls and all the
Right.
beautiful, muted tones, right? You're buying like the fluffy circus pom poms.
Yeah, for sure.
um, and then I know, like, just when I was growing up, and I saw my kids do this some too, they love to do crafts that they can take and play with their toys that they're already interested in.
Yeah.
So, again, Google can be your friend here if you want to, like, baby doll bed from a shoebox, and you'll get some kind of ideas on how to put that together. When kids maybe get a little bit older, you can kind of just hand them a bucket of stuff and say, hey, why don't you build a park for your toys to go play in, or have them decorate a little background, like, oh, this is going to be, they're going to go visit the museum, so make a little museum here, and then we'll set it up and they can go. So that's kind of fun too. They get to be creative, but it feels like it has a purpose, and then they can still use it for a while.
Yeah, and that reminds me of like kind of the opposite being true as well. Like both of my kids have drawn a picture and I uploaded it to a website called Budsies, and they basically created a stuffed animal of their picture and sent them the stuffed animal. So like they can do stuff like that where they draw a picture. I mean, it was fairly expensive, but it was a Christmas present. Like we're not spending this much money on a, regular stuffed animal.
Right. No, I love that though.
Yeah. And so now they've got this like super unique stuffed animal that they drew and, and has come to life. So like kind of the opposite where you're saying like they create something and then they're able to play with it. But yeah.
So I haven't done any 3D modeling. Like this is not something that I've really tried to dive into at all. But my husband started to a little bit. And so, if you get familiar with one of these little like sculpting programs or ways to do this 3D design, you could do that kind of thing where, you take a picture, turn it into something 3D, and then print a little plastic version of it. So,
that's awesome. Well, this has been awesome. Is there anything that we missed that you wanted to touch on before we wrap up?
Let's see. I mean, no, this has been super fun. Like, it's fun to kind of get things out and be like, oh yeah, I made that and we did this, and then talk about how it works, and kind of get other people excited about it too. I heard a quote a while ago, and it went something like, "You don't have to be good at something for it to be good for you," and I have loved that.
I love that.
Kind of especially looking at like this world of creativity, right? And it doesn't help that we've got TikTok and Instagram and all these things. We're like, in 30 seconds, someone made a beautiful flower bouquet.
Right. Like, nope, can't do that.
Right. And so we just kind of have to get over the fear of not being good when we start out, and to realize like it doesn't really matter, if you feel like you're that good or not, right? Like you can be a pretty poor drawer and still get benefit out of doodling.
Facts.
Or any of this other stuff. So and just the idea that you can make something that didn't exist before. I can work on something today and it's not going to be undone tomorrow, like the laundry or anything else. So those are some of the ways that I feel like it's been really good for me, and I hope that some other people will get that same kind of message without feeling like you need a whole entire craft room full of paint and tack and glue.
Right. I love that. Well, make sure you are following Stephanie Crafting in the Rain. She's got some great tutorials on YouTube. I was looking through them. Even an idiot like me can understand a lot of what she's doing. Okay. So, and then on Instagram too, also Crafting in the Rain. So make sure to check her out. We will see you next week on this channel. I don't remember who my guest is. Actually, I think it's Officer Gomez next week, which is really exciting. He's a school resource officer in, I think, Idaho, but talking about kids and safety. So that'll be really fun. But so we'll go ahead and leave it here. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for being a guest. And hopefully someday we'll be able to, we don't live in the same state anymore, so we can't get together as often, but
we'll make something work out. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah. Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
no problem. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.